I've been given an interesting topic that I particularly like because I think this subject is very important. Are you going to be able to get that pulled up there? Just go slideshow, full show. I think our image of God, our image of Jesus, dictates the way we respond to Him to a great degree. I mean, some people got this image that God is like a bully, like a traffic cop hiding behind a billboard waiting to catch somebody doing something wrong so he can zap you, and He likes it. I don't think the Bible teaches that at all. Some people think that God is like Santa Claus. He gives you anything you want and all those kind of things. That's not a right image either. I think Jesus coming to this earth was multifaceted. There was more than one reason for Him doing that. He came, obviously, to pay the price for sin. He came as well to show us God. And He came to show us how to live. You know, the problem is we read the Bible and there's not pictures in the Bible. We don't know what He looked like or what things happened and all. Here's a verse I want you to look at. This is Genesis 1:26 and 27. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and over the livestock, over all the earth, over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. Male and female, He created them. So God made us in His image, and He knows what we're supposed to look like. Now, is it supposed to be about the physical, or is it supposed to be about what we are on the inside? We have the tendency to create Jesus in our image. Y'all think about this. What is your image of Jesus? Well, here's one. The Holy Jesus. And by the way, I got these pictures right off the internet, so they must be right. All right? The Holy Jesus. When you saw Him, there was a glow around His head so nobody could mistake Him. That's the guy. That's the one. There's a passage in the Gospels, I think it's in Luke, where they were about to take Him and throw Him from a cliff, but He was able to make His way through the crowd and walk away. You think you would miss the guy with the halo around his head? Probably not. I call this one the Sissy Jesus. Still got the halo, but he just looks so sweet. Now understand that Jesus made His living until His ministry began as a carpenter. Now we think of carpenters as work with wood and all that. They didn't have nearly as much wood as they had stone, things of that nature. Jesus was a rugged man because of what He had done in His life to prepare Him. Well, here's a wonderful one. I call this one the hip Jesus. I keep thinking He's going to say, "Wah!" There's another one I would call the suffering Jesus. This picture was actually taken from the video Jesus of Nazareth. And while that may be closer, it's way too sterile. I mean, even in the context of what it is that Jesus was going through at the time that this is supposed to be depicting, this is way too sterile. And not only that, He's way too pretty. The thing that I think as far as our humanity goes is we have a wrong concept of what He looked like physically. Isaiah 53, 1 through 3. Who has believed our message? To whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before Him like a tender shoot and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to Him. Nothing in His appearance that we should desire Him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and familiar with suffering, like one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Might be hard to imagine, but Jesus could very well have been just as average looking as Mr. Hale. Hard to imagine that Jesus could have looked that average, but he could have. If he was able to lose himself in a crowd, there were no distinguishing features, nothing beautiful about him. There is a real possibility that he was just as average as about 99% of all of us. Some of y'all are born with raving beauty and talent and all those kind of things, and a lot of us are just average. That's not to put you down. That's not to put me down. I've come to expect average as far as that kind of thing goes. That doesn't matter. In fact, it gives me comfort to know that Jesus was just human when he was here, as well as being 100% divine, but nothing that would make people just flock to him as far as the way he looked. These are some of the things that people said about him. While Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. And when the teachers of the law who were Pharisees saw him eating with the sinners and tax collectors, they asked his disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" If this is a rabbi that should be listened to, that has something to say, why is he hanging out with people nobody else would hang out with? He doesn't choose his friends very well. He hung out with the bad people. He hung out with average people. There's something that Jesus said about himself. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say here's a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is proved by her actions. It basically says to me, like Jesus saying, no matter what I do, you aren't going to accept me. I'm not hanging with the people that you think I ought to be hanging with. I'm not doing what you think it is that I'm supposed to be doing. Now, I don't know what it is that your image of Jesus is, but to the extent you get some idea of what Jesus is about in your mind is going to affect the way you look at God. God is not the cop trying to catch us. God wants you in heaven. That was an amazing revelation in my life when I figured out that God is on my side. And God is on your side. That he's not happy about the possibility of sending you to hell. Hell wasn't even created for people. It was created for the devil and his angels. What we're told in Matthew 25. Here's something I want you to know about Jesus. He wasn't white, middle-class American. I mean, that may seem like a surprise to you. Look at the news. Watch news from that part of the world. He was likely olive-skinned. Why? Because that was the culture that he was born into. He didn't look much like this. He didn't do a lot of the things that we think maybe he should have done. He didn't live in the nicest home, hang with the coolest people, care to be in the presence of the social elite. You may not like this, but this is the truth. From the time Jesus' ministry began until he died on the cross, Jesus was homeless. Now think about that for just a little bit. He had no possessions of his own. He depended upon the goodness of people who listened to him. But as far as we know, he had no home, no place to lay his head. But he came on a mission And that mission was for us. Jesus called them together and said, you know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus didn't come to get what all this world has to offer, because Jesus created this world. He had no need. Jesus didn't come so people would bow down to him. Jesus came to point us to the Father. And he came to give his life to pay for sins he didn't commit, for people like you and me who couldn't pay for the price for the sins we have committed. Jesus is on your side. He loves you beyond imagination, comprehension, or words that could describe it. And I believe that the sooner we understand that, the more likely we are to seek him and desire to be what he wants us to be, because he gave everything for us. Let's pray. Father in heaven, forgive us when we create you, when we create Jesus in our image to make him look and be what we think he ought to be. God, help us to understand that he came and served and lived and died and rose again so that we could be with you forever. And the very least that we can do is to change our lives to be conformed to his image. Strengthen our faith. Help us to seek after you daily, and forgive us when we fall short of this. And it's through Jesus we pray.